Welcome to the Fantasy Aceball podcast. This is your host, Tim Kanak. You can find me on X at Fantasy Aceball. And if you're watching on YouTube, it is at the Tim Kanak on YouTube, the Tim Kanak. If you want to watch and follow along with the write-ups and the rankings as we go, you can see the hitter grades, the pitcher grades, and the full write-up and follow along as we speak. And if you're watching, you already know that my boy, Matt Morris is here, and you can find him on the X, Matt_E_Morris on the X. What up? How you doing?
What's up, dude? Yeah, man. I love the Twitter/X shout out. It was a very inactive year for me. If we have any crossover from the Dynasty Dingers, Doc and I have had very busy years. He's done a much better job of content creation and opinion based tweets than I have. So I'm really looking forward to the off season and having some stability, being able to actually, shout out my opinion on players. And it's fun because a lot of the names we're going to talk about today, I think, have had great seasons and are worth talking about, right? Worth having player highlights on. And I think some of these names too kind of get lost because of the range that they seem to fall in or have fallen in before. But yeah, those who go to my X account, it might be a little sparse from this past year.
Oh, that's all right. Doc, he's willing to put up enough controversy for everybody, I think. On X. Yeah. We were talking on, I can't remember, it was like a month ago or whatever. He posted, he's like, oh, there's this little known guy, Connor Griffin. And then everyone started going insane about that post. And it's like, he was like, really, you don't fall. Have you ever watched, what is it? What's the guy here in Miami? The big sports guy who used to be on Around the Horn. I used to watch him all the time.
Goodness. It's so the former president of the Marlins guest appears sometimes with him.
Yes. Stugotz is I can't. What's his
Oh
name?
my gosh, I watched him for years, and it's on the tip of my tongue. And he does a show with his father at times.
Yes.
I'm
They
sure
have
the
a
listeners
thing.
know what we're talking about.
Yeah, they have a thing during their show where like callers will call in, and if they're like, "Hey," blah, 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 and they have a thing that just goes, "You don't get the show." Like, you don't get the show. You don't get the doc. You don't
You're not one of our you're not one of our regular viewers or listeners, right? Because those people understand the shtick and like they follow along with the sarcasm and that kind of humor. But that's social media. You get a wide net, and there's always sharks swimming from various ends of the deep, right? Like always.
Oh yeah, I had someone who they didn't like my Guardians rankings for my when I did my team prospect rankings, and they're like, this guy is pretending to be a Guardians account. And someone else was like defending. They're like, no, he just put hashtag guards or whatever. Like he's not pretending. He's not pretending to be anything. Like, no, this guy, he's pretending to be a Guardians official. And these rankings are not correct. This is not what MLB Pipeline has. Like, you don't understand. You just don't understand. So anyway, we're gonna start at number 50. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here so that those on YouTube can follow along. Number 50 is a guy we should all be well familiar with at this point in time. It is Logan Henderson with the Brewers. Unfortunately, he got hurt and has not pitched in a hot minute here. But the good thing is that these stats are all actually accurate. Even though I wrote it on August 20th, nothing has changed because he's been hurt. So that is the one positive of Logan Henderson being hurt, is that the stats in my write-up are still accurate. So Logan Henderson, obviously phenomenal year. Came up 178 ERA, 0.99 whip. I don't think that's realistic to expect moving forward for Logan Henderson, but he is a phenomenal pitcher. The fastball is something I've always loved. Even like last year, before anyone ever heard of Logan Henderson, he was still in my top 100. I think I'm at like 75 or 76 or something at the very beginning of the year, because I loved the fastball changeup. And one of the things with Logan Henderson is the cutter actually has turned out to be a very good pitch. So like going in, people were scared saying, oh, it's just the next Chris Paddock, blah, blah, blah. Fastball changeup, that's not going to play, which, the fastball is better than Chris Paddock's ever. Similar velocity, but way more ride on Logan Henderson's fastball, especially from the release point. And then the changeup is a 60, 70 grade is what I have on it. And then the cutter, like I said, it's a 87 to 90 mile per hour cutter. I threw a 55 to 50 grade on that cutter. So he actually does have a third pitch. Like, yeah, it's not like a big, sweeper or curve or whatever. And he does throw a slider that's not that great, but it is a good pitch, and it helps kind of differentiate the fastball and the changeup. So you can't just sit fastball, because that cutter kind of throws that off if you're going to try to sit fastball on him. What do you think about Logan Henderson?
Yeah, being back in the state of Wisconsin this summer, I've gotten a chance to watch, almost every Brewer game, and it's been a great season. But what I'll say is when I've seen Logan Henderson this season and seen Quinn Priester, you see what this organization is doing from a strategic objective. Quinn Priester, before he was traded to Boston, was written off almost completely as a guy that had a fastball that would never work, secondaries that didn't complement the shape of the fastball, the tunneling, and Pittsburgh gave up on a first round, I want to say 17th round, 17th overall round range in the first, that is. And look where Priester is now, and it's the cutter. The cutter has made all of the difference. He's not a high velo guy. Well, velo has slight upticks. It's the cutter that, exactly what you said, does not allow the opponent to sit on that average fastball. While I think Priester's much further along in his development, he's gone through what doesn't work. He's found what does work. I think Henderson really profiles from just a traditional box score as Quinn Priester. Best case scenario, you probably have a really solid major league rotation 3. If he stays in the Brewers organization, you're looking at good wins without having the velocity. In my opinion, I always like that for quality starts leagues as well. Durability is a concern because you have the elbow that barked this year, right? We have to note that. But I really like what Milwaukee did with Henderson, and there's no question they have a type. And I think when you look at their drafts this year, next year, 2024, they're trying to develop these kinds of pitchers on top of taking some really high-end talent that might be able to be front line, like a Mizorowski. But rotations are built off the guys like Logan Henderson and Quinn Priester.
Yeah, especially with that command. Like, no matter what, even though I don't expect him to have a under 2 ERA, like he's probably a guy that sits in the threes, but he's gonna have a low whip because his command is so good. He's always gonna have a low whip. And that's great. Like, that's exactly what you want for a mid-rotation guy, is you want a guy who's not gonna walk people, who's gonna get you, decent amount of innings deep into games. I know he's a slider build. People get concerned about these smaller pitchers. I'm not really concerned with Henderson. I actually think that the smaller pitcher is it's actually a good thing for a high fastball guy. Like, people who are predominantly fastball, like, you don't want everyone to be Peyton Tolley throwing a fastball with insane extension. Some of these guys with lower release points, it helps the fastball look like it's getting more ride than normal because you're getting ride off of the launch point, off of where that ball is released. And that's actually going to get you more ride if they have that really good fastball. So it actually helps him play up. I'm not really concerned about the size for durability, even though, yeah, he got hurt. So, I mean, like, it's a pitcher. Every pitcher will. So let's move to number 49. It is Mike Sirota with the Dodgers, another guy who is actually hurt right now, unfortunately. So Sirota is out for the year, hurt his knee. I'm not exactly sure how badly the knee injury, how bad the knee injury is, but he got hurt. Let's see, what was his last game played? So he got hurt July 5th was his last game played. So this is one of the biggest risers for the first half of the season. Everybody was talking about him, made it all the way up to high A. Probably would have been in double A if he didn't get hurt at this point in time because he was raking in high A too. But, injury strikes, and he's apparently supposed to be healthy for the beginning of the season. So it looks like it's not going to affect him going forward. But that's Mike Sirota with the Dodgers, who showed some big time power speed, decent enough hit tool. 73% contact rate is it's not great, but it's below average. So it'll play. So I give him a 40-45 on the hit. Plate approach, he's 18% walk rate, 21% K rate, which is fine for a power hitter on the K rate, but he's got a good eye, obviously. Quality contact is there, 26% line drive rate, and the EVs are all there. So max EV of 113. 90th EV was only 102.6, but that's only when he was at Aceball. So that's, small sample size. It's not including all of his statistics on the season. So I'm sure it's higher than that based on the output that he had of 13 bombs in 59 games. And this is even better, 32 extra base hits in 59 games, which is insane. You, of course, put that, extrapolate that through a whole season, and you're looking at like 70 extra base hits or whatever, 70, 80 extra base hits. That's phenomenal. So where are you at on Mike Sirota?
Yeah, the big thing for me in Sorota is I don't have the same access you have to the EVs. And I try to kind of like squeeze around that with really looking at a lot of the numbers that you dropped, but BABIP, right? Like I've found through the years now, especially at the minor leagues, if you don't have the EV data, you can really take a look at a player's BABIP and track it through the levels. If you see a couple like crazy jumps or drops, like that doesn't really help you with your calculation. But when you look at Sirota over the course of what he's done through college with metal and then into the pro level where he's taken jumps in his BABIP, he's sitting around 400 at each level. And yes, it's only A and high A, but that leads me to believe that those EVs are strong. Now, at 399 on the season for his BABIP, we're going to expect some regression there. But I think he absolutely plays. The Dodgers need an outfielder, right? They need that depth, if anything. The news that Kyle Tucker may sign there that came out, the last couple of days is really interesting. So we'll see how that plays. But I think the biggest thing for Sirota, and I'm going to say the same thing with Nick Kurtz, we really have to start taking an entire college profile of performance when we're thinking about FYPDs. Sirota had a really, really, really great sophomore season. If I'm correct, it was a back, or maybe it was even a knee his junior year where there was kind of some regression. And we didn't get the draft selection where he was supposed to. And here he is performing. Should we be shocked? No, he was talked as potentially a top 10 pick that fell. So really happy for him. And the Dodgers absolutely got a steal from the Reds in that Gavin Lux trade.
Yeah, that was killer. Don't trade with the Dodgers. That's
Ever.
ever. Dodgers and Rays. Unless you have the Twins can win some trades against the Dodgers for whatever reason, but nobody else. 48 outfielder Lazaro Montes with the Mariners. I've dropped him in my rankings despite really good performance. He's still continued to show a lot of power, but I guess I'm just more concerned about the contact rates than ever because the contact rates have not improved. You think, okay, he's a younger guy, he's playing above level. I think that it's just a matter of the fact that he's, struggling because he's a youth at whatever level, but he hasn't adjusted. And I feel like the Mariners, like, you can't let him sit there forever. So I understand, like, he's destroying it in high A statistically, even though he only had a 67% contact rate at high A. And then you're like, okay, are we going to just let him stay down here destroying people until the contact rates come up, or do we just push him? And so they push him to double A, which makes sense. But now he has under a 60% contact rate. It's 59.9. So it's not, I say under 60, like I don't want you to take it too dramatically, but that's why he's only hitting 216 in double A. And yes, he's only 20 years old in double A. And yes, he still had 14 bombs in double A. And yes, he has 32 home runs on the season. All that is fantastic. The power numbers are great. The power is fantastic with Montes. But I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to develop the hit tool. I just like it can still happen because he is young for the level, but I just don't know if I really see it at this point. So that's why I push him down because the contact rates are so bad, despite like ridiculous EVs, like 116 max EV, 106.3, 90th percentile, just like some insane EVs, insane power. But like he strikes out a decent amount and the contact rate is not really there. And he's also not very good against lefties. So there is maybe some platoon concern, but again, he's a 20-year-old at double A. So there is still the possibility that these things evolve. It just has not yet. And it has me a little bit concerned.
Yeah, same. And there's only one real piece of this that I'm like trying to pump my own brakes on because everything you said has red flags across the board for me. I'm thinking this is a sell window if I'm still rostering him in Dynasty and I can really capitalize on the box numbers before people dig into the data. Now, what's causing me to pump the brakes is James Wood's 2023 at double A was not good, if we remember correctly. It wasn't as bad from a contact rate as Montez has had, but similar age, different players, but also more similarities than we think, like more speed for Wood and like just pure like athletic ability. But in 2023, James Wood had a contact rate at 69%. And when you really 68.4 to be exact. And going into the 2024 season, I was looking to sell James Wood because I had the questions that we have about Montez. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to tap into that raw athleticism and that raw power. Well, we saw what happened as that offseason progressed and Wood came back, and just found a way to just improve contact. And now is doing it at the major league level. But we're talking about 10 percentage different points, right? Like Montez at double A is at 59.9. That's a big enough difference for me not to say this is a likely outcome, but he's young. Let's see what happens maybe next April. And then if we still see this contact issue, I will be out.
Where do you have him currently? Is he like a top
Oh,
25 guy to you, or
no. He's probably right where you have him for me. I'm doing my rankings over the course of September, and I've loved Montez. I mean, since he signed, right? He was a big international hype guy, but we've seen growth and then we've seen regression, and we need to see some growth into. I would hope they place him at double A next year, but probably 40 to 60 would be my guess for placement.
yeah? 47, Arjun Namala. This is an interesting guy. Super interesting. Terrible first half last year. Amazing second half. Amazing first half this year. Terrible second half. So the big question is, what is going on with Arjun Namala? And it's like, this is my imminent moment right here. Where will the real Arjun Namala please stand up? I mean, he's only 19, so there's a ton of time here. But like these guys that just have good half, bad half, good half, bad half, it just gives me some scary vibes because like I've just seen Spencer Jones do this a lot, and it's like I expect Namala to be more of a consistent player than that because he has good contact rates and because he does have such good power for his age. But the problem with Namala right now almost seems to be angles. I feel like he's just not getting into quality contact. He only has a 15% line drive rate this year. That's pretty terrible. So it's like, and he's popping up a lot too, like 18.5% infield fly ball rate. So he's just like not getting good wood on the ball. Like this is like a barreling / quality of contact issue with him because we know he has the power. The plate skills are still fine. 10% walk rate, 21% K rate. That's not terrible. 11% swinging strike rate only. So it's not like he's like swinging and missing too much. And the contact rate is still decent, 73, almost 74%. So it's not like he's just like swinging and missing all the time. Is that he's swinging and making like bad contact instead of good contact. So I hope that this is like, just like a slight adjustment or slight thing that he can fix in the offseason because we've seen him make these corrections before. So it's not like it's impossible at this point in time, which is why I haven't like pushed him down further because he hasn't like statistically on the back of the baseball card. That one's for Doc. Statistically on the back of the baseball card, like nothing is looking like he doesn't look like a superstar, right? Like 13 bombs, 17 steals. You say, okay, that's okay. Maybe like a top 150 guy if you're just looking at power speed. But like, is that really a top 50 guy? This is more about the projectability of him being a 19-year-old, 6'2" shortstop who could run into being like a 25, 30 home run guy and hitting 270. It's just like he needs to fix this little issue.
Yeah, and if it clicks, we're talking about a really, really great fantasy asset. If it doesn't, maybe we have the conversation with him in a few years, much like we did with Colson Montgomery, right? Where you're like, no consistency. We know there's tools in the bag. We just don't know if he can reach his hand in and grab the right one at times. I love the almost 9% K rate drop this season. Looking at 2024, 30.7 coming into this year now, with the data we have, 21.4. And I would bet that contact issue you're talking about is him adjusting. It's him trying to make more contact and sacrificing quality of contact for that commitment. Not in the organization. I don't watch Arjun Namala's, high A game, so I can't tell you. But that's a great improvement, right? Because the 30.7 for me last year said this will never work ever. If this continues and it's only 2-3 percentage point drop offs, like he's not worth even rostering because that doesn't play. But 21 does. Now it's the growth of his body, his overall mechanics. I think this is a really good time to buy. And again, like, shortstops with this kind of athleticism, like you're hoping for them to pop. You just don't know if or when they will.
Still a top 50 guy for you too?
Yeah, and I think his profile is something that I'm now targeting aggressively. especially in this range, the 50 to 30, where it's just so much upside. And I think Colson Montgomery is helping me with that. Not saying that Colson Montgomery is an all-star, this great player, but some of these guys that are just so athletic and so talented, the bat speed. There was an interview that Vinny Pasquantino had with the Athletic where he talked about his gain in bat speed and how it actually hurt his game because he was ahead of pitches now. And I just see that with Colson Montgomery and what he did in the minor leagues. It's like some of these guys might be so freaking athletic, it hurts them because they're not facing competition that's helping align with their body mechanics. So I'm going to be targeting these guys that just seem to have an incredibly high athletic floor and aren't striking out 30% of the time, like Mala was.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I was like, like that's why I'm like, okay, he's still 19. He's not 20. If
Mhm.
he's not 24 doing this, right? It
Yep.
hasn't been a couple of years of this, so I'm not really overly concerned. I mean, there's slight concerns, but not overly concerned. Number 46, some of the same concerns, really. I mean, like, well, really, it's like kind of like flip flop side of the hit tool concerns is Braden Montgomery. So Braden Montgomery this year started like really, really hot. But then again, he was also at Aceball, like low A, as like a premium college guy. So you say, okay, he probably should be really, really hot coming out of the gate there. But the big problem for him has been contact rates because this is a guy that I always thought of as like a guy who should be able to get into an average hit tool. That's a guy when I watched him in college, I always thought that the hit tool is better than like what scouts graded him to be. Um, but he hasn't gotten there yet. While he has shown nice power and speed, 12 home runs, 14 steals. Again, that's not like doesn't scream superstar or whatever out of the table here. And there is more swing and miss here than there is with Nabala. But the contact rate is only 70%, 69.8%. So like right under 70 for Montgomery. And where at Aceball, he was at 74. So like I see that. I'm like, okay, see 74. That's trending average. Like it's not close. It's not quite average. It's like a little subpar, but it's not, a 30 or 40 hit tool like some people think he has. But then he ends up in the 60s, which is kind of like a 30 or 40 hit tool. But I think that it's in there for him to improve. And I think that's going to be what makes or breaks him because we've kind of seen as this contact rate has gone down, the power and the speed have also not been there for him. So I think this is him trying to make adjustments. I don't think this is quite like a Chase Davis scenario here where he's just like, oh, that was a bad pick. He's toast already. Like, you're it. Like, I think that these are all correctable things where I still give him like a 30-50 potential on the hit tool. And I think that the power and speed are still also very good. I give him a 55-65 on the power and a 50-55 on the speed. I mean, the guy has gotten to some really good EVs, 115 max EV, 106.4 90th percentile EV. Usually with those types of exit velocities, you're hitting more than 12 bombs. Usually with those exit velocities, you're in like the 25-ish home run area. So I think that like this is still a potential 25-15 or 25, maybe 25-20 type guy. Probably more like 25-15 once he really gets into it. But we're just trying to see him adjust the hit tool at this point in time.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, this is a kid that was a two-way player in college. You know, tailed off that in his junior season before he was drafted, shattered his ankle at home plate and missed the College World Series. So we're talking about, continued development stint there with being injured, coming into the Red Sox organization, being traded to the White Sox organization. There's a lot going on, and I really hope Chicago is patient with him because there's also a similarity with the Spencer Jones, who was similar, right? Was a two-way player and had to, really catch up with the bat and focus on it, where Montgomery doesn't have that incredible raw power that, Jones does. I think it's actually closer than people might want to talk, but Jones shows it and shows it regularly, where you said Montgomery needs to tap into that a little bit more in the game. I just think we're talking about a guy that might take an extra year to develop than what we want. And as long as Chicago is patient, I think they will reap the rewards of that plus, not plus contact, but better than advertised contact that you spoke on. And there will be opportunity there. That's another big piece of this. So I'm expecting a 2026 end of season debut. I hope they wait till 2027, but this coming season is going to be really important for his prospect status because if he can't make some of those jumps, he's going to, drop 10 to 20 player ranks on most rankings. And that's fair, but a lot of talent here.
Are you Arjun Namalo or Braden Montgomery? Who would you draft if you can only pick one?
Namala right now, just because the upside of the asset could could be so much higher, I think, a year from now. Um, I th- I think they're similar players at the major league level, really. If we're talking about medium return and expectation, but prospectors love the young shortstops. They fall in
Yes.
love with it. If you can catch someone on just a month, you could see the difference in Namala's, marketplace jump 30, 40 ranks because people are thinking we're having a massive number one prospect breakout here. And so I'll take that youth with that potential because I want to sell it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Montgomery, splits wise too, true switch hitter, hitting 273 against righties and 261 against lefties. Actually, insane power against lefties, 539 slug and 7 homers against lefties and only 130 at bats. So he's a true switch hitter, which is one of the reasons why I like him. I like a switch hitter that can actually be like projects out as a good switch hitter, and it's not like
Real.
a
Yeah.
situation
Yeah.
where it's like they're just doing it kind of as a gimmick to get to the pros, whatever, and then it's actually not for the betterment of the player. 45 is George Lombard Jr. I saw him in spring, have not seen him since. There's a lot of juice around him in spring training because he gained a lot of muscle, which he did because I saw him last year too in Jupiter a couple times. Then I saw him in spring and he definitely got bigger. And this is a guy where you look at the numbers and you're like, how is this guy really a top 50 prospect? Like if you're just looking at the back of the baseball card here, you're just seeing like, okay, 200 hitter, only 7 home runs and whatever, like a few 30 steals. Like this guy's like, okay, I don't think he's that great, but the thing to consider is all the numbers under the hood here for him. So he's a 20-year-old who has been at Double A 101 games this year, so the majority of the season at Double A. Now while he's only hit 212 there, I'm really not that concerned about the batting average. 73% contact rate so far in Double A. So that's again subpar. Like really, an average contact rate at this point in time would maybe be like 77 or 78%, which would get you to like a transition to closer to normal contact rate in the bigs from 77, 78%. But he is young for the level and he's 6'2", gained a lot of muscle. And there's like a hidden amount of power here because he has a max EV over 110. He has 90th percentile. That's decently high. Last year as a 19-year-old had a 102.4 90th percentile, which major league average is around 104. So, he's almost to major league average as a 19-year-old based on that data from last year before he put the muscle on. Now we don't have the 90th percentile EV data, so I'm sure it's higher though, since he's built that muscle. So I think that we have a really nice frame here, kind of like Namala, but I feel like he's a safer version of Namala. I think he's got more speed than Namala, and I think that the hit tool is more of a guarantee. So I give him a 40 out of 50 on the hit tool, and the plate approach is definitely better than Namala's. Like this is a dude who can take a walk. So I give him a 50, 60 on the plate approach. Power, I give him a 40 with a potential 55 just based on the EVs. And then the speed, I give him a 65 out of 60. Like he has 33 steals or whatever this year, but I don't necessarily think he's like going to be a major stolen base threat. Can he steal 20 bags when he's in the majors? Yeah, but I don't think he's stealing like over 30. But that's why I like Lombard, despite like kind of like the subpar statistical line. If you're just looking at 234 average, blah blah blah, like under 400 slug, but that's why I'm in on Lombard.
Yeah, and we have former professional bloodlines in his father, and I'll bet on that, right? When you talk about all of the advanced underlying metrics at 20 years old, on top of having someone within the family that you can call and has helped you with mechanics and helped you get to where you are, that's a nice added piece of the floor in reality. I think what's interesting, and I don't think there's much weight to this, but when I saw him get promoted to Double A, I was my first thought was just please don't push him too fast because Volpe's an absolute dumpster fire right now. Like don't hurt a kid's development because you need to apply pressure on one of your major leaguers. And I also don't think this is a case where they're pushing him much like the Padres have to increase his value. I think they see him as a big piece of their future because they're banking on that development that you spoke on, right? Again, a big jump. What does he look like in 2026 once there's even more physical growth and development and the contact takes just another little bite up? I think this little tier you have of these 3 guys is a really fascinating part of the ranks because there is so much upside, which each of these guys, Namala, Montgomery, and Lombard, and it's like the likelihood is we're not going to get 90th percentile outcome on all 3. So it's really pick your poison, right? And what you prefer. I also just like to note that George's brother is going to be a pretty exciting draft pick as well, and it might be better. We might have like a Jackson Ethan Holiday situation, but not as notable within the Lombard family.
Yeah, love it. Well, his brother might go higher just because so many people missed on George that they're gonna be like, oh, don't want to
Yeah,
do that one again. Don't want to
I
make
tried
that
to
mistake
find
again.
where when he's eligible. I think it's this coming draft, but don't hold me on that. Very little data that I was able to find on when he's going to be in the draft.
Yes. Number 44. This is a guy we don't have to spend too much time on. We've all seen him in the majors. It's Marcelo Mayer. Per my whatever, my rankings, I don't use service time. I'm just using at bats and innings pitched to make it easy to count up. I don't want to be like looking at rosters and having to figure out, oh, how many days has this
Was
guy
it
been on the
44 or
roster?
46? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, don't need to spend too much time on him. Still a good player. Showed decent power in his small sample size in the majors. But, a lot of strikeouts, way more than you would expect. And the hit tool wasn't really kind of what we expected going in. But again, I'm not really too concerned. I think once he's healthy and getting regular action, he's going to be a very solid player. I don't think he's a superstar. I've always comped him to Dansby Swanson because I think he's just that type
Mm.
of guy. I don't think he has the speed of Dansby Swanson, but I think you've got here like a 270 hitter who's going to hit 20 bombs from shortstop with, pretty solid to above average numbers across the board, which will play, and especially in deeper leagues. I think he's like a good player for deeper leagues. And I think now that he's hurt, it's probably a good dynasty time to buy on him because he got hurt and people are not going to be thinking about him. And Roman Anthony got the call up, and now they've got all these other guys in Boston. So he's like almost like he's like a forgotten guy now in Boston. So I think there's actually like a decent dynasty opportunity to buy on him this offseason.
I think you nailed it. The only thing I would add, because your comp is my exact comp, except it's like Dansby Swanson with injury problems.
Yes.
And that's the only concern of like Dansby's great depending on league context and great major league player, right? Like actually worth that big contract, I think, because of what he provides. But the problem is if you're not on the field and you're just slightly above league average and everything, but a good defender, what are you to fantasy managers? And so I think what we're going to see from Meyer is, probably really valuable in 20 leagues and deeper. And then in 15 leagues, I just foresee him getting kicked around a lot because we're at like 3 or 4 pretty significant injuries since coming out of high school now. And he has to have a concerning tag on him for that. But yeah, absolutely. I think the Swanson comp is fantastic.
Where are you at on him between him and Jordan Lawler? Between those,
Oh, not even
between those
close.
two guys, who are you
I
picking?
Yeah, Lawler for me, and it's just because I hate Dansby Swanson. I'm being a Brewers fan, like, and I watch him, I'm just like, "Great, we get to face Dansby Swanson. This is either a pop-up, ground out, or strikeout. Fantastic." But I loved him coming out of Vandy, and he just didn't he lived up to expectations actually as a number 1 overall pick, but he never really tapped into that, like, plus player I wanted to see from him. And Lawler just has those skills. I mean, the RBI single he had tonight, I don't know if you saw it, but if anyone that's listening watched that game, it was like there is some loud contact in that bat. And if he can just figure it out, we have a star there. And the floor probably isn't as high as Meyer just because similar issues and being drafted so close to each other. They'll, I hope they're tied to each other for the next 15 years in a positive way.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be tied together, I think, because they were drafted
Mhm.
next to each other. 43, Jet Williams. I don't know what position he's going to play when he makes the majors. He's been playing second base, shortstop, outfield. It's like the Mets do this with every middle infield prospect they have since Ronnie Mauricio, I think. Like even Acuna. It's like they all play all these different positions just to try to figure it out. But Jet has a lot safer of a profile than Ronnie Mauricio or Luis Angel Acuna could ever have dreamed of. So that's the difference. Jet Williams, big time doubles guy. big time stolen bases, and he takes walks. He's got a good plate approach. And one of the things too that's interesting is his hit tool can actually be a bit better, I think. So his contact rates are not bad. They're pretty solid. So I give him a 40-45 on the hit tool. I think the hit tool can be a little bit better than projected. And EVs, while they're not like super high on the max end because he is a smaller guy, like a max 108.4, he's a guy that hits the ball hard pretty consistently. He's just going to be a big time doubles guy. I think like he could probably run into a couple 20 homer seasons, almost like an Ozzy Albies has, and like how like later career Altuve has. Like imagine when Altuve was a prospect. Do you think anyone thought that that guy was going to hit 20 or 30 home runs in like 30 home runs in a season? I don't think so. So could Jet do it? It's very possible, and he's going to get a lot of steals. So I like him a lot because he's going to get on base, he's going to hit doubles, and he's going to steal bags. 65 speed. So I love some Jet Williams. I think this is like the one Mets guy who's actually going to make it.
Jet Williams to me is what Caleb Durbin should have been for Doc. And you and Doc, I'm sure, have talked about Durbin and his love for Durbin. Jet just seems to have a little bit louder of the internal raw power, and speed's hard to gauge in the minor leagues. I'm not going to compare their stolen base numbers, but we've seen a plus base stealing ability from Williams. And I think, again, lineup context too, you're going to be in New York, presumably, unless he's traded, right? Good defender, good glove if he's able to play all over the place. I just think he has the raw power to actually produce at the major league level. And that's a problem I think Milwaukee's having with Durbin, is that power consistency. He's really got to square it up and swing for the fence. Whereas Williams, as a line drive hitter, can get into some home runs just by simple happenstance of a good swing. Really like the profile. I am so curious to evaluate this kind of player when we look back in 10 years and see the guys that worked, see the guys that didn't, and just the ones that provided major league value for how long. I think Williams will be a really interesting, unique profile because he does remind a lot of us of Altuve.
Yeah, for sure. How can you not when you're 5'5" or whatever? Like it's
Yeah.
it's impossible not to. So like if in case you're listening and not watching on the YouTube, my comp for him was Jose Altuve build with Bryson Stott like production. 42 is Eduardo Tait with the Twins. He got traded at the deadline from the Phillies to the Twins and the Duran deal. I love this dude. 18 years old. I think he's still 18 even right now. I loved him last year when he was 17. Oh, he just turned 19. 19 years old in 11 days. So just hit 19 finally. But really good line on the season. 253, 311, 427, and 14 home runs as a barely 19-year-old, mostly 18 all year, playing at high A for two orgs. He had to deal with the trade too. But he's actually been performing better of late with the Twins. Like his line drive rate is actually up at like 26% with the Twins. So he's been performing better. But this is a guy who has a potential plus hit tool. Like right now, he's at a 77% contact rate on the season. And that is to me, and that in my eyes, especially for his age at that level, this is a 50 to potential 60 grade hit tool. And while the plate approach isn't fantastic, it's 7.5% walk, 19.5 K. That's solid. Like it's maybe below average. Like you'd like to see the walk rate closer to 10%, but like that's slightly below average only. The power is really where he's going to be. So Tait had a 113.8 max EV and a 105.9 90th percentile with a 10% barrel rate and a 16-degree average launch angle when he was at Aceball this year, because we got those statistics since he was in Florida State League, and all that as an 18-year-old. Those numbers track with like Samuel Basallo's power when Basallo was back at 18 years old. So that's why I love Tait. Is hit and power are going to make him a really, really good player. And I think he's going to stick at catcher. He's a pretty decent catcher. I saw him live, and he looked pretty solid behind the plate. The one concern I do have for him is he has had a pretty bad time against lefties. So hopefully he can figure that out, because he is a lefty catcher, which is kind of rare, right, to see a lefty catcher, but he is a lefty catcher. So that's like the one thing we have to watch out for him, I think, right now is just the platoon splits potential for him, which as a catcher, that's not the end of the world because most catchers are only playing 5 games or whatever in a week anyway. So it's like if you're just going to sit him against lefties, he's probably going to get just as many plate appearances as your standard, everyday catcher.
Yeah, and Drake Baldwin has been incredibly useful if you've paired him with the right backup this season, right? And similar approach, left-handed bat, right-handed thrower. And Tate, I think you hit it right on the money. It's a Samuel Basayo package, but the body is different. Basayo being a guy if you were to run into him in a gym locker room, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that guy's definitely the power hitter. Where Tate has a physical frame to him, but currently only listed at 6 feet tall. So to be able to have that output with the EVs without the similar height and stature, I think is very impressive. And I am curious to see if these reporting metrics on height is correct. But against the point here, like everything looks fantastic. We mentioned the age, and also we forget being a catcher, huge responsibility beyond what normal traditional players have in their developmental track. Like you're still learning to call a game, you're learning to frame pitches, like you're spending exponentially more time on your defense and your strategy for the game than a lot of position players are. Minnesota made this deal when they traded Duran for Tate, I think is the headliner, because we've seen how Abel has done. And like they have to really believe in this kid as the future cornerstone as their catcher or the future first baseman. And I think that's great. When an organization tells me something like that, it just solidifies what the prospect circles are really saying.
Yeah, he was the real big get in that trade in my mind. 41, Nolan McLean, another guy that we've seen in the majors. And now I can finally give him his due because my last ranking, I only had him at 103. And a big part of the reason I had him ranked so low compared to a lot of other people is just the swinging strike numbers were not great. And like the K minus walk rate wasn't very great in the minors. And I'm like, is this a Jackson Job situation where it's like he has a ton of really good pitches and he just doesn't know how to make it work? And then we've seen him just completely evolve in the majors. I feel like he's been way better in the majors than he ever was in the minors. Like, I don't know if that's just like maybe he didn't have a good catcher, like who knew how to call his game right or something, because like he's just like his K minus walk is like 24% in the majors versus the 16 and a half and double and A and triple A. And it's just like, what? Where was that back down in the minors? But like if you just look at his arsenal, the arsenal is ridiculous. Like I threw on his fastball a 50 out of 50, sweeper 50 out of 60, which some people think his sweeper is like a 70 or an 80. But metrically, it actually doesn't get as many swinging strikes as you think it would, just like watching it, because it is a beautiful pitch. Sinker, I throw 55 out of 60. Cutter, 55 out of 60. The curveball is actually my favorite of his pitches. I throw 60 out of 70 on that. And then the changeup is a 40 out of 40. I grade that as his worst pitch. Command is 40 out of 45. Like it comes and goes. And it's definitely been better so far in the majors. Like he's had games where he had like 4 walks or whatever like that, but he's able to work around it because he has so many pitches, and he's working a 0.76 whip right now at the major league level, despite like only have like a 98 location plus. So I think like looking back on this, I'm thinking that this was just like bad game call or something like that in the minors, and then now this major league staff knows how to properly handle him and his arsenal.
I think there's a lot to be said with what you just laid out, and we have another two-way player here. These guys we're seeing more and more of these guys come from collegiate back, collegiate pitcher, pitcher now or hitter, and we're seeing it with McLean as the pitcher. And I think there's a lot of that within your context, which is maybe he got to the major leagues, he threw a bullpen, and they're like, dude, we're changing everything about what you've been doing, right? Like, okay, you have 3+ pitches, a fourth good pitch, your changeup's so we'll just kind of use it as a meh pitch. And he's just absolutely gone out and dominated. And it's fun because Cade Horton, another former collegiate two-way player, who had some injury concerns, but took a little bit of time to develop because he was learning the position as his, new standardized position, having a great second half. These two have great stories within baseball right now. And honestly, I like what we're seeing from Nolan more than I like the long-term outlook for Cade Horton. I just, when watching McLean pitch, you're like, that is ace stuff. Will he become an ace? Time will tell. But I mean, talk about a riser this season. And that's what's beautiful about this game and prospecting, because this kid's developing in front of our eyes, and in the midst of a playoff push, right? He may be a really big piece in October for the Mets. Honestly, he might be their best pitcher in October.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot, but like his stuff right now, it's definitely better than Frankie Montez.
Yeah, I would probably make it like I doubt he comes in as their number one guy, but he should be a starter in a playoff
Yes,
situation. He should be
absolutely.
either number two or number three guy. Like I
Mhm.
understand if you want David Peterson to pitch first because he's been there forever and he's earned it and blah blah blah. And Sengo's been rough lately, so you let Peterson start first, and then but like if my season's on the line and I have a choice between starting Nolan McLean or starting Sean Manaea, you can bet your ass I'm going Nolan McLean.
I mean, just
Number
think if you were asked 6 months ago, who's going to potentially win you a fantasy playoff championship in like head-to-head Cats League points, you would put Bubba Chandler against McLean. People would laugh, right? But look at what Bubba just did, and look at what McLean's doing. That's baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Number 40 is catcher Raniel Rodriguez, who unfortunately I don't get to watch anymore because he was called up to high A the other day. And like, of course, I think he went like 4 for 4 or something like that in his first game in high A because the dude is a complete stud. But Raniel Rodriguez, tons of fun when I got to see him. And it's just ridiculous power. Hit the ball further than anyone that, and I've said it a few times in this podcast, but he has hit a ball in front of me further than anyone in that stadium that I've ever seen going to these games in Jupiter for 3 years now. That is not a major leaguer. So outside of spring training, like he hits it further than anyone that I've ever seen in that park. And that's a tough park to hit it in. Insane pull power. And he's actually like not that big of a dude. He's pretty short. Like he's like he's like I wouldn't call him chunky, but he's definitely like more of a round dude. But and he's not tall, but he is got a ton of power, and he's just quick twitch with like a ton like great pull power, like 53% pull rate on the season and a 46.5% fly ball rate with a 23% line drive rate. Like he like barely ever hits the ball on the ground, and he's always pulling it in the air with insane EVs at his age. So he had a max 1084 in A ball this year. So obviously we don't have his data from complex, and now we're not getting his data from high A, but that's really good for an 18-year-old. I'm pretty big on Raniel. So I love the dude. 103.8 90th percentile EV. Like I said, 104 is league average for the majors, and he's doing that at 18 years old. My comp for him is Augustine Ramirez. I think he's got a very similar swing profile to Augustine. And while like he's a decent catcher, like he's a pretty decent catcher. He's got a good arm. I don't know if he's going to be the catcher for the Cardinals because the Cardinals have so many good catchers in the system between like Jimmy Crooks and Leonardo Bernal. So I think that he's probably moving off position a la Ivan Hernandez. Like the Cardinals have so many catchers. So I feel like he's got to move off the position. But the contact rate is there 78.4% contact, 83% zone. So I give him a 50 out of 55 on the hit tool. Plate approach, I give him 60 out of 65. His walk to Ks are almost equal, which is insane for someone of his age. And the power, I could throw a 55 with a potential 70 on. So this is just a stud hitter. Like there's not going to be speed here, but he's a stud hitter.
Yeah, if your baseball organization that you root for is lacking catching depth, just sign the best catching free agent, and then all of a sudden you'll have 3 or 4 great catching prospects pop up like St. Louis did, and first base will be designated by one of the Contreras brothers. I just think it's funny, right? Like Yachty retires, they immediately try to fill the hole, and here we are 2 years later, and it's like who actually gets the job because we have so much depth here now. And Rodriguez, I mean, I'm proud of you for not putting him in the top 20. I've seen some incredibly aggressive ranks. And honestly, from what you said and what other people in the industry have had with their excitement, heck, it might be warranted. I'm a little more tempered, and I haven't seen him play in person like you have. So that's a big piece of this. But I'm seeing a lot of Frankie Alvarez in him. I really liked the Ramirez comp that you gave. I'm not out on Frankie Alvarez at all. I think we're going to see a really, really great baseball player because Alvarez is still young, but great pull side power, elite ability to get the ball in the air. And it's going to be interesting to see, how the development path in St. Louis goes because they need him to be a part of this new cornerstone. And I think Alvarez, in a lot of ways, for the Mets, has kind of been in a backseat position because they've been so competitive while he needs to develop at the major league level, and he keeps breaking his hand. That doesn't help. But I really think the power is going to play next year. Your sentiment about the distance he hit it. This guy is going to be on everyone's radars come this fall, and I think we're going to see some ridiculous trades in dynasty leagues with people trying to go out and capture this kind of talent.
Yeah, I think the difference between Frankie is that his Raniel's contact tool has just always been way better.
Is it? Okay. That's good to
Yeah,
know.
it's significantly better, I think. Because like I said, he's running like 78% contact rate as an 18-year-old. So
Well,
that'll
and think
fly.
about that, right? I mean, Frankie was the number one prospect, maybe not in fantasy, but in pipeline, if I remember correctly. Like that potentially is Rodriguez's upside then, right? Like, we'd have to see comparable numbers with EVs, but the sky is truly the limits from the 2025 performance he's given.
Yeah, I think the power tools are right on there.
Hmm.
It's just Raniel, one of the things that I love about him is because I've got to see I've probably seen him at least 10 times this year. So the great thing that I've seen from my eyes is that I have seen him when he first got to A ball from complex, he struggled. Like the first 2 or 3 times that I saw him, he looked terrible. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this is a top 100 guy. Just like bad swing decisions, hitting the ball on the ground. I was like, yeah, I just like it gave me a feeling where I was like, maybe he was just beating up on complex, like because it does not look great. And then the next few times I saw him, I could see the plate approach improving. I'm like, okay, he's getting better. He's hitting the ball in there. He's making good contact. Saw a home run from him. I'm like, okay, we're getting there. And then the last few times I saw him, it was just utter dominance. Every at bat was a walk or a double or a home run. Like just nothing else. Like literally every at bat was something good happening. Like it never struck out. So I saw the complete evolution of him within like a 10-game sequence this year of just him struggling to just be utter dominance. And like that is like what you want to see. I like everyone likes to say, oh, prospect growth is not linear. It's like, well, it was
Yeah.
for Ronnie
Sometimes
Rodriguez
it
and people.
is. Yeah.
So yep. So let's get to number 39 here. 39 is Jonah Tong with the Mets, another Mets prospect who debuted. I like Tong, and I had him ranked 84, and I was so high on him like a year ago because I saw him, but I was like so concerned about the command because like I'm like he's like I mean everyone's seen him throw now at this point, but like I like back when I saw him, I like a year ago, like nobody had seen him throw, and I was like, how does this guy even know where the ball is going? I'm like he's not even watching I'm like he's not even watching the plate when the ball's leaving his hand. And his command was like he was like 12% walk rates or whatever last year when I saw him. But for whatever reason, like he's figured out how to make that work. And I think he's going to be phenomenal until he gets hurt because with that arm action, it's gonna happen. Like you can't throw that way for years and years and then not get hurt. But I think he's going to be awesome until he gets hurt. So now my only concern with him is just like really it's injury or like a mechanic twitch. Like maybe he gets a slight injury, maybe not like a major injury, but something, and it just completely throws off his mechanics, and then his command goes bye-bye. Because I saw him when the command was and I was like, that's insane stuff that like I don't know how people hit if it's in the zone, but he's got to hit the zone. And now he's hitting the zone. Because it's just a ridiculous thing to look at if you're hitting and you see this guy coming full body at you and the ball is coming completely over the top out of a small, like from a very low release point, and then it rises. It looks like it rises, and you're like, holy crap, like what was that? So like I understand how it'd be hard to hit that. And maybe when guys see it too much, like if you get a bunch of good looks at it, maybe you learn how to hit it. But 175 Sierra or JAERA from John Anderson, which is basically minor league Sierra, that talks like that's insane. And the fastball is also insane, 95 to 98 miles per hour. That's a 65 grade pitch. Change up, I put a 50 to 60. Curve, 55 to 55. I don't really like the slider that much. Like, I put a 40 on it with a potential 50. I know some people really do like the slider, but I'm just like, my main concern with Tong is just the command and like the durability. Will that body hold up with that insane high effort delivery?
And this is why I actually like comps. It gives a really good context for just the conscious awareness we have an attachment to past success for players. And at this point, if you're listening, you've probably heard with Tong that Tim Lincecum is the current comp because of the mechanics, not maybe the expectation, right? Tim Lincecum, borderline Hall of Famer. In my book, he is. But health and mechanics cut his career short, right? When the fall was happening, it was bad for Tim. And that's going to be the same concern, just like you said for Tong. Does he lose a tick on that fastball? And if he does, is he the same kind of effective? I am a little more cautious. If I were the Mets, I would just make him an absolute dominant fireman in that bullpen. And I think that's probably what we're going to see if he has a good September here into October. Two rookies for this team potentially helping their playoff push. But, you know, I'm not a betting man in regards to seeing another Tim Lincecum. I really like Tong. I love everything you threw out there. And it leads to a plus prospect, but I'm really tired of getting screwed on health grades by guys and taking these risks. I think the talent's there. I just don't know for how long.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I have him in the 40s. Other people have
Yep.
him like top 10, which is crazy to me.
Yep.
38, shortstop Aiden Miller with the Phillies. Having like a really underrated year, really. Like, nobody's talking about him, and he's almost at, I think maybe is it 50 steals now.
Yep.
So pretty insane. And this is the crazy thing. Again, you can't just look at the back of the baseball card statistics, right? Like, you look and you're like 257. This guy's batting average, meh. I don't know. His contact rate is 77%. So he's always run good contacts. Last year, he had a full year of 77% contact rate, and the year before that, 83%. So he's always run good contacts. Like, it's very possible Aiden Miller has a 40, like, I give him a 45 to 50 grade hit tool. It's very possible he hits that 50 grade hit tool with plus power and plus speed. 6'1", 205 at shortstop. He's got power. He has more power than the 13 home runs that he has this year and the 11 that he had last year. It's in there because he has a 106.3 90th percentile EV and a max EV of 109.3. That's like right on track with like JJ Weatherholt pretty much. So that portends more to like 20 something home run power. And he has decent angles. It's not like he's hitting the ball on the ground either. So I think he's going to get there. I think it's just a matter of like, the dude is still young. He just turned 21. He's getting bigger. Like, he's going to get there with the power. I'm not really concerned about that. I think that this is kind of a lock for a 2020 guy, to be honest, if not better, because the hit tool's there. Plate approach is solid. 55 out of 55 on the plate approach for me. Power 50 out of 60, and the speed 65 out of 60. And you might get scared by the K rates, 23% K rate, but he only has a 9% swinging strike rate. So, like, when you see that, you know that K rate's going to go down. 9% is excellent for a swinging strike rate. So I'm like really in on Aiden Miller. And I think he's kind of underrated right now because he had a lot of juice last year. Everyone was talking about him. But really, there's like no hype around him this year, even though he's been better. 51 steals on the season. So where are you at on Aiden Miller?
No one is even like remotely close to where he should be. I respect where you have him. I think it's a very fair placement, and I'm not going to be super aggressive. But like when I looked through this list, it's like him and Sal Stewart have a chance to be top 5 third basemen. I genuinely believe that. And we have some guys that have to obviously move on. Like Manny has to regress and some other names, but these two players, and we'll get to Sal in a little bit, so I guess I'll hone on Miller. Like Miller coming out of the draft, the concern was, good contact, but not great contact. Projectable power. This will be a power third baseman. Here we are 3 years after he's been drafted, and we're talking about 50 stolen bases. Like this is incredible because also on top of that, he's still projecting as the player that he was drafted as. Bohm potentially hitting the free agent market this year. I am using Miller as a potential third baseman, but you're right. He's a shortstop. The only difference is like Trey is there, and like, does Trey move to third? Like, positionally, I don't think it matters so much. I just think we have a really great player and Aiden Miller that absolutely 2020 should be a lock. And projectable power. Like, we don't know really where the ceiling is. And this is a really, really high floor as well. Really good OBP. And that's kind of why I comped him to Sal, because that ability to find a way to get on base is really, really important when utilizing that floor. I mean, a 381 on base percentage this year from Sal. The contact that you mentioned helps. Also, the plate discipline at a 15.1% walk rate. I love Aiden Miller, and I think he should be absolutely top 40s for almost everybody. And even that, it's hard for me not to think top 30 or top 20. It's just the power hasn't really been tapped into yet. But again, we'll talk about Sal, because that was Sal's knock just last year, and things can change quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Next on the list is a pitcher, and I actually saw his debut yesterday. It's number 37, starting pitcher Liam Doyle for the Cardinals. If you want to see some video on him, check out my X channel, and you'll see a bunch of video that I got on him at his first start, including his first ever Cardinals warm-up, his first ever pitch in the Cardinals organization, his first strikeout, and his first home run given up, unfortunately, to Alfredo Duno. So Liam Doyle, he actually kind of looked a little rough yesterday. Like you could tell he looked like he hadn't pitched in a few months. It's like he looked like it. But I love the fire. He wore number 13, which I love. I was like, okay, that fits his personality perfectly. He got in a guy's face. There's someone who hit a ground ball. He took it, ran to first, ran it over, then got in the guy's face after. I don't know exactly what happened, but I loved that too. I'm like, okay, there's that Liam Doyle fire that we've all seen. But the pitches were not really there. He was only reaching 98 on the fastball. He was like throwing 96 and 98 more or less on the fastball. And it was getting fouled off a ton. And it kind of reminded me, because I saw Andrew Painter also this year. And it really reminded me of when I saw Andrew Painter. Because when Doyle basically threw all fastballs. He had like 6 or 10 pitches or something that were not fastballs in the start out of 40. He only went 2 innings. I saw the same thing. When I saw Andrew Painter, he was doing his rehab. He went 3 innings. And Painter was throwing like all fastballs the first 2 innings. And then once he started finally mixing in his breaking pitches, he did a lot better. So I don't know if that was his plan to just throw a bunch of fastballs. And obviously, like the whole thing of him going into the draft was that he throws a fastball 70% of the time. That could be his downfall. Is he a reliever? Yada, yada. But I'll tell you that the splitter looked really good when I saw that. He threw the slider a few times. And at first I was like, I can't, like his slider from behind, it looks like a curve. Like it's different watching a guy from behind the pitcher versus like behind the home plate. You kind of have to get used to it. But they call it a sweeper. But to me, it's like more like a curve than anything is what it looks like. It's like a fast curve or whatever. And that didn't really like have great command in my mind when he was throwing it. Like you could tell, like, okay, it's different. Like that's not a fastball. So I think a lot of it is just him knocking the rust off. So I'm not really too concerned. Like people might look at the metrics and be like, oh, you know what? Look, he didn't perform that well. Like people look at the TJ stats or whatever, and you say, oh, look, the stuff plus wasn't great on these pitches. But you know what? Like he hadn't pitched in a few months, and that's probably the last time that we're going to see him until spring training, unless he goes to fall league. So I think it's just, knocking the rust off, getting a little action in, and kind of getting used to the organization. So I'm not really concerned about it. But it was fun to go see that first start, and he did have really, really high velocity. Like he threw when he threw the ball, it was like, whoa. Like as someone who's seen a lot of really good pitchers this year, like that is obviously like the highest velocity that I've seen. And I've seen Painter and Yuri and, all kinds of guys this year in minor league ball.
Well, and that's why they took him, right? Like the projectable, not even the projectable, the potential of what that velocity with development could be for the St. Louis Cardinals organization. I don't have much to say just because, he is so new to professional ball. And, if you have interest in him, you can go and look at what he did in college and his ups and his downs. But I wanted to ask you, if you had an opportunity today to slide him just even a couple slots down based off what you saw, would you at all, or would you just keep him where he is, not read almost anything into that debut?
I would probably slide him. I would probably slide him into the 40s.
Okay.
So, like, yeah, after watching him, I mean, like, again, like when the first time I saw Raniel, he also was not great.
Hmm.
So it's like, one viewing, you're not going to get the full picture of somebody. But I think at this point in time, I would probably have him like mid 40s in that
Yeah.
range. I would probably have Tong and McLean ahead of him. I would have Raniel and Ada Miller ahead of him, but he'd be, not, he'd be in the same grouping that we're discussing today.
Well, and that's prospect starting pitching, right? Like it can fluctuate wildly from week to week, and you know we try to target the guys that have plus stuff, and that's what's exciting about Doyle, and that's what I'm looking for in 2026 is just watching him let it rip.
Yeah. Also, I love his attitude. Like, you want a pitcher that's going to go after guys.
Hmm.
That's what you want. So 36, Sal Stewart, as you already had prefaced. I love Sal Stewart. I compliment Manny Machado light, like similar mechanics to Manny Machado. Great, great hit tool, solid plate approach. He's not going to walk the world, but he also like barely ever strikes out for a guy who can get into power. And this is the one thing, and I've watched Sal Stewart now for years. I saw him back when he was with the Daytona Tortugas a couple of years ago. And I remember when I saw him, I was like just getting into like watching prospects. And I think I messaged Clegg and Welsh and I was like, hey, I'm going to go check out the Tortugas. Who are the guys I should really be looking at? Because I don't really know A-ball too well. And they were like, check out Cam Collier, check out Carlos George or Jorge or
Yep.
whatever the
Yep.
hell. And there's like someone else, I think. And then I went to that game and I was like, I saw Sal Stewart and I was like, that's the best guy on this field. I was like, I could just tell. I was like, that's the best guy. And he was kind of out of shape, didn't look as good as those other guys, not as strong, whatever. But I was like, that's just the best hitter on this field. I think he had like 2 doubles or something like that. And now he's developed power. Like at that point in time, I watched him. I'm like, great hit tool here. I don't know if he's ever going to get to power though. And then, like, that was my concern with him last year too. He's going to hit for high average, but I don't know if he's more than like a high teens power guy, right? Now we're seeing power. He's finally gotten into it. 113.7 max EV, 107.2 90th percentile EV, both insane numbers, and we're getting the power. So, yeah, I'm in on Sal Stewart. 25 home run Sal Stewart with a 280 batting average. That's a really great player. I'm down for that. Like, maybe he's not going to be a superstar, but I think he could be a consistent all-star. Like,
Yep.
is he gonna be like, the top player on the Reds? Not with Ellie De La Cruz around, but all you need him to be is like the third best guy on that team every year, and that's fire.
Well, and again, marketplace value, right? You mentioned Manny. They're also friends, which I learned on the Reds broadcast this week when he homered off Tong, which was really cool to see. It wasn't like a moonshot. It did just barely get over the wall and it avoided a home run robbery. But great to see from Sal. And they were joking that, he needed to get it done before he went to San Diego because otherwise Manny was going to give him a hard time and they're friends. I was like, how fitting is that? Like, this is not Manny Machado, but he could be. It's just the shine may never be there. And I think when I say marketplace values, because think about Manny Machado as a prospect, right? Like blue chip, going to potentially be a Hall of Famer when he was with Baltimore as a prospect. And it's like, okay, pump the brakes a little bit, right? He's not the next A-Rod yet. But then you look at Sal Stewart and it's like, just this offseason, you probably could have bought him for a bag of chips and maybe a 4th round FYPD pick. And here we are talking about a guy that could have multiple all-stars under his belt. And it's like, that's just incredible market value. And it goes back to the season you talked about, 2023. I just continued to bang the drum that it's like this guy is walking exactly the amount of the time he's striking out, 13.7 across the board. And then you look at that growth in 2024, struck out a little bit more than he walked, but it was still 14.8 and 16.9. It's like, damn, that's some incredible plate discipline. And yes, it's fallen a little bit as he's been promoted, but I love the profile. I love the patience. Hasn't walked at the major league level yet. So you can tell he's definitely acclimating. But Sal Stewart in that lineup, in that ballpark, should see good environment power. I think the profile is absolutely one that people should be definitely paying attention to. I don't know that buying anymore. I think the buying window might have been on pause. Unless he just has a bad September, then you can probably target this offseason.
Somebody nominated him in an Ottoneu league that I'm in,
Okay.
and He went for $9, which is
260.
yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
400, but
Okay.
$9 is
Okay.
really high at this point in time for a guy who just got promoted. And then I actually got him. I'm in a league with Doc, the CBS Memorial Magazine League, where it
Okay.
has like to the CBS guys in it, like Scott White and stuff like that. And I won Sal Stewart in Fab. So I'm super. I actually got Sal Stewart and Tong. I spent all my fab. I saved all my fab, and I got Tong and Sal Stewart in the same week, like last week or whatever it was. So that was nice. 35. Shortstop Bryce Rayner. This is your buy window right now. Get him while he's
Mhm.
hurt, because guess what? When we see him in spring, he ain't going to be so cheap. He had a really, really good season until he got hurt, and it was shortened by injury. I saw things here that, I was not expecting him to be this good. And I was coming into and you may remember we did our FYPD draft, and I was Rayner ahead of Connor Griffin, which was definitely a
That's
mistake.
right,
Like,
you were, and you
yeah,
might not have been wrong. Well, okay, that's a little, but like this
yeah,
was supposed to be the Griffin Rayner season. Could you imagine if he didn't get hurt? Like the hype
yeah.
would be out of control for these two.
He's still been phenomenal. But I will note, I was also a huge Nick Kurtz guy. Like I was like Nick Kurtz, like top
Yeah.
5 first baseman already. So I was also like a big Nick Kurtz guy. But I was definitely wrong on Rayner over Griffin, despite the fact that Rayner had a really good season. So Rayner, this is what I like, what we saw from him this year: 11.1% barrel rate, 23% line drive rate, and then the EVs from a 19-year-old, 107.9 90th percentile EV, which is absolutely insane. That's Samuel Basayo 90th percentile EV, and a max EV of 111.6 as a 19-year-old. So we're seeing like potential 65 grade power here. So that's why on the hit, I give him 40 out of 50, plate approach 50 out of 60, power 55, 65, and speed 50, 55. I think we just have a really, really good player here. Maybe he's not going to be Connor Griffin, because Connor Griffin looks like he's going to be like the next Ellie De La Cruz, which is hint, hint, why he's my number one prospect. But Bryce Rayner is an excellent, excellent player that you have a very good buy low window on right now due to the injury.
Yep, love everything you said. The only concern I have, and I was devastated when I saw the injury news, dislocation of the right shoulder for a left-handed hitting player can be a problem. We saw Corbin Carroll with the torn labrum. I looked into Rayner and I didn't see if it was a rotator cuff tear or a labrum tear or if there was any cartilage damage. It just ended up being disclosed as a dislocation. And maybe you know more than I do, but that's kind of where I stand today with my information. And I just bring it up as a concern because you got to think on the follow through with the bat. If you are a player that creates a lot of bat velocity and you have higher exit velocities because of that, that shoulder can fly open. And we see it with Corbin Carroll. Like you're always kind of holding your breath when he swings because it's like, is he gonna twinge again? Is he gonna hurt himself? Rayner being young, I have less concern. It's just one of those things where you hate to see people get hurt, and then you have to project, okay, what could the risk be attached to this? I'm not going to really get too much deeper than that, but really, really looking forward to his 2026. And again, I'm just disappointed we didn't get a chance to really see him and Griffin both just absolutely rise the ranks all season, because these two could have had one of the best prep full season debuts that we've seen in a very long time. An injury kind of took that from us.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, he got hurt when he was base running. So like
Mm-hmm.
you think, okay, maybe because it was when he was base running, it's not
Yes,
going to be an
less
effect.
risk.
It's not going to be too
Yeah.
bad on the swing. When you see a guy hurt his shoulder because
Yep.
he swung too hard and his shoulder flew out of his socket or whatever, you think, okay, that is something that could happen again. But because it was a base running thing, you're like, okay, maybe it's not a repeatable thing. And also maybe at that point, it's not going to be mentally in his head, like, hey, this could be an issue because it happened when he was running. And he's like, that's a fluke injury, So I think mentally that could help him, because you do hear about guys that get like mentally stifled by
Mm-hmm.
repeating injuries. 34, Kalen Culpepper. I love this guy. Super, super underrated. So Kalen Culpepper, I think he's at 20 home runs now, I want to say, because I wrote
Yep.
this up on the 7th, or maybe even well over 20. Let's see. He's at 20 home runs and 24 steals. So this is a dude in the draft last year that was like hidden because last year's draft was just so insane that we've got all these, superstars coming out of it. And then you've got Kalen Culpepper just kind of like hiding in the background. Just a phenomenal season. And everything is really like solid across the board for him. So we have a solid hit tool, 76% contact rate. So he could be a 50 grade hitter. 45 out of 50 is what I throw on him. Even though he was not supposed to be a great hitter. And that's like his downfall coming up. Plate approach, solid. Like I give him a 55 out of 60 because I think that the walk rate could be closer to 10%. And I think that he can get the swing, the K rate back down to like closer to 15%. And I like his profile of how aggressive he is at the plate. He's like your hit first guy, which is great. I don't like the guys that are too patient. They wait too long. They have great walk rates, right? But at the same time, they're letting how many hits go by that they could possibly get, and their batting average trends down because of that. So I think that Kalen Culpepper, because he's an aggressive hitter, is always going to be running a pretty good batting average. He's not going to be one of these guys that's affected by being too passive, like a lot of the other Twins players that you run into. And the other thing that I love about him is he's played 110 games in the Twins organization. That never happens. Let me knock on wood real quick here. So Caleb Culpepper is actually a healthy Twins prospect. So we got to love that. And then obviously there's power and speed there when he's putting up a 2020 season. I think he would be a 2020 guy in the majors. I think that everything he's doing lines up really well. And this is a repeatable thing that he can do at higher levels.
Okay, so I have a comp, and I think it's really solid. There's some pretty significant underlying pieces to it. The walks, Culpepper does better. K is also K percentage is also more in control, but same division. Think over the last 10 years was also a shortstop. Is there a player that you can think in the division that was good and may not even be in the league anymore that you would also comp him to?
Also in the division. No.
So I think
there.
I think Culpepper is going to be what I wanted Tim Anderson to be. 2020 consistency. Anderson had a bit of aggressiveness in his play, and I think it's really what ended the career on top of the significant injury that he had that decreased his
Terrible
EVs.
chase rates.
Yeah, but when Culpepper was drafted, I was like, oh, like I thought I saw a similar profile, and I'm loving what I see. The only question I have is where does he end up on this team, right? Well, now that Carlos Correa's contract and playing time is gone, this really opens up this infield for the best man standing. And Culpepper was a pretty risky floor play for the Twins in the draft. Like I thought if they were going to go risk, you should go prep guys as opposed to like taking a guy that may never be anything more than a utility guy. Well, Culpepper surely has shown us he is more than that. And very excited for what he's going to be. And I think you're right on. I think we're going to have a starting shortstop in the major leagues. And I think we're going to have a very consistent one who's fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Super underrated. 33, outfielder Zaire Hope with the Dodgers. This is a guy that I'm probably down on compared to most people. I understand the EVs are insane, and I understand he hits ball hard and far, 470-foot bomb, great angles, but the contact rates are not there. Like they're down from last year, so I am concerned about the hit tool for Hope. 67% contact rate on the year, and there's a lot of swing and miss here too. So like even though he walks 15% walk rate, 26% K rate, I think he's going to strike out like that. Like I don't think that this is going to be corrected. This is not like a 20% K guy. I think he's going to be a higher 20s guy. So that does concern me a bit, especially if he doesn't fix the contact issues, because at that point, what is he like? The Dodgers Lazaro Montes or yeah, exactly. Like I don't think he's as good there. I mean, like obviously he's got some speed, 26 steals, but if you look at him, he doesn't look like a very fast player. And his run times are kind of like slightly above average. They're not elite run times. So I don't know, like 26 steals, 6 caught stealing. I think he's more like a 15 steal guy in the majors than a over 20 steal guy. But the power is really what you're buying with Hope because the EVs are really good. But he's just got to make better contact because a 67, 68% contact rate, that's not going to cut it for what you want from him, especially as a top 50 guy. So I kind of have him in this medium range here where I'm like, some people are like top 10 Hope or top 20 Hope. And like, I just think I'm like, okay, like the power is here for sure. I know the power's there and there's decent speed, but not great speed here, I think. But the K rates and the contact rate is a concern.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I jokingly threw out Joe Adell's name, but like that's not a terrible outcome if we're really looking at this profile. Did you know that Joe Adell's at 35 home runs this season? Like that's
Yeah.
just crazy. I mean, he's not what we wanted him to be, but that's a very, very good player. And if we get 240 with 35 home runs and 94 RBIs from Hope, that's a huge win. I think anyone that thinks the average is going to be even remotely close to 300 is, you look at the strikeout concern we have right now. And I would say, secondly, the risk is when you as a prospector or a fantasy manager, when you really start to clamor for these guys that are rising ranks really fast, like Hope was, this can be kind of a drawback. You have some pullback at times, and I think as long as the Dodgers are patient with Hope and really make contact and plate discipline an important part of his game, we're going to see a good big leaguer. It's just, at what point do we see that good big leaguer? Joe Adell, it took until he was 26 with that, number one or top five prospect to really shine. But there were the similar concerns we saw, and a lot of us ignored because of the excitement.
Yeah. And will it be with the Dodgers? Because they have so many, so many
Yes.
guys between
Yes.
Sirota, Quintero, Hope, so many guys.
Where do you
32.
have DePaula? Is he higher?
Yes. Much
Okay, yeah,
higher. Yeah.
yeah. There you go,
Much
right
higher.
there.
Yeah. 30 and Quintero too.
Mhm.
32. I've got second baseman. He's playing short right now a little bit too, but he's going to be a second baseman. Michael Arroyo with the Mariners. Super underrated because he's just really good at everything. He's not elite at anything, but he's above average to good at like every single part of the game. Good hit tool, right? 77% contact rate. That'll fly with plus angles. That'll fly all the time. Big line drive hitter, big doubles guy. Great plate skills. So doesn't strike out. Also walks at an above average rate. So 55 out of 60 on the plate approach. The power, 109.7 max EV. So that's pretty good for a middle infielder, especially a guy I think he's like 5'8". So shorter middle infielder, he can get into some power. So with that kind of EV and the power numbers that we've seen in the minors, you got a 20 home run guy here. And he also steals some bags every now and then. So like the last couple of seasons, like last year, he was 56 extra base hits, 23 home runs, 18 steals. This year, he's kind of tracking for the exact same season, which is one of the other good things about him. Even like week in and week out, he's very, very consistent. So second base sucks. And I don't think he's elite, but I think he's really good and he's really consistent, which makes him a really underrated asset in Michael Arroyo.
Would you take Arroyo over the next 5 years or Keishel?
Keishel. I love
Good
Keishel.
answer. I know you
I
love
was like,
Keishel.
I had him at like number 11 or something like that.
Yeah, and like look at what Keishel is doing to the second base ranks. Like, talk about a guy that is winning people leagues right now, right? Like, Keishel's a great slap on the wall, cover up the hole. Now you have a beautiful piece of artwork. And I don't know that you're right. I don't think Arroyo is Keishel, but second base has sucked. And he has a really fun profile. I'm a little bit less excited just because I'm questioning how does that power play in Seattle? Does he play with Cole Young and Colt Emerson also, potentially in this infield? There's a lot to figure out, but the Seattle environment does scare me a little bit. I'm really hoping they trade him. And those that remember Ketel Marte being their number one prospect, Marte started off his career with really, really below average EVs. Now he's in the upper tier of EVs. So again, these guys can develop at the major league level as well. I'm really hoping they trade him. I would love for him to get traded to Arizona. It's kind of disappointed in the dealings that they've made that he wasn't a guy that was going back. But I think you have a solid point with position need and scarcity for him to be an absolute guy that should be within the top 40.
Also, he's 20 doing this
Hmm.
thing, double A. So that's another thing is there's a little bit of a age to level boon here with him, which happens with all these Mariners middle infielders, right? We saw the same thing. Cole Young playing 20-year-old at double A, and same thing with Colt Emerson. So this is just like a Mariners thing is to quickly promote these middle infielders. But I agree. It would be nice to make sure that he is going to get PT wherever he ends up. So whether it's trade or whatever, like it'd be great if they trade him to the Reds like they traded Edwin Arroyo, right? And get him
Yeah.
in Great American Ballpark, and then now we're really talking.
Talk about a name that also disappoint, right? Like Arroyo fell off a mountain. Like
Yes,
there's still hope. It's hell of a time to sell Mariners. Hell of a
Christian
time.
Campbell's coming back. There's always hope.
Yeah, there is. There is.
Yeah. 31 outfielder Ryan Waldschmidt. This is one of my favorite guys. I picked Ryan Waldschmidt up in a lot of leagues, like right at the end of the season here, where he was available in like any league where it's like a keeper league rather than a dynasty league where you have limited keeper spots. I feel like he was available in a lot of those types of leagues, like odd new leagues, for instance. So like I'm adding him in all those leagues because I think he's up relatively early next year, just based on the trajectory that he's had so far. My comp from is a righty Lars Nootbaar, which like he's going to be in a way better ballpark because he's just a Statcast guy. Like this guy's a straight up Statcast darling. He's got way more speed than Nootbaar too, so I guess I got to throw that in. But 76% contact rate is good, and a 32.8% line drive rate in Double A is insane. 109 90th percentile EV and a 112.5 max EV. Like this guy
Damn,
hits the ball
he's an
hard.
athlete.
Yes, he hits the ball hard. He hits the ball hard a lot. He's got some speed. 40 what is he at? 24 steals in the season. I think he's got more than that now. Let me pull that up real quick. So let's see. He's at 28 steals in the season with 16 home runs right now and tons of extra base hits. And he's also going to be hitting probably in the middle of the Diamondbacks lineup because the Diamondbacks traded a lot of these guys, so they kind of need to refill some of those spots for the guys that they traded. And I just really love this guy. 50 hit, 65 plate approach, 55, 65 power, 55 speed. Really good player across the board. You can see 16% walk rate, 17% K rate on the season. Just stellar dude here, Ryan Waldschmidt.
Yeah, I was really excited to talk about Ryan because I was not in on him for FYPD, or really anywhere. I've just seen enough of the profile when they took him to think, okay, they're just, they're trying it again, but he's different. He's not Thomas. He's not Carroll. He comes in at 6'2". You talk about all of the StatCast data. It just seems like this is going to be a guy that a lot of us that want to see really exciting, loud tools coming out of the draft kind of sleep on because we just assume, oh, we'll age to level and this and that. And then the next thing you know, he's in the major leagues and he's breaking out. And you're like, well, how did I miss this guy? It's just because, again, like hype after the draft and what the scouts are saying, what the organizations are saying, what we're all saying in the industry is important. And we all take that into our consideration. But this is a really exciting profile. And I'm really fascinated to see, like you said, when is he up? Because Thomas just isn't cutting it. McCarthy isn't cutting it. Like the Diamondbacks need to find an outfielder that can really be Robin to Carroll's Batman. And from your stamp of approval and just looking at his numbers overall, like this is a guy that could be that player.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't also get past that. You had Paul Goldschmidt on the Diamondbacks forever, and now you've got a Waldschmidt, same team. That's just like poetic justice right there.
The
So
universe aligning exactly how it's supposed to be.
yes, exactly. So moving on to number 30, we got a starting pitcher, Trey Savage with the Blue Jays. Just super interesting guy. Similar delivery to Tong, kind of, except he's way bigger. I comped him to righty Kershaw. I'm like, because he's just got the same kind of delivery as Kershaw, just super over the top, but it's like the right-handed version, and then also the big slider too. So I like him a lot. I think that the metrics were too good. I don't think because I'm not like I like the Arsenal, but I don't love the Arsenal. If you understand where I'm at, like I think he's more like a number 2, number 3 guy than an ace, despite having really really fantastic numbers the entire year. I think a lot of it has to do with that he's just a very mature pitcher and he's able to like get through some of this stuff. He ran into some struggles at AAA since he's gotten to AAA, like a lot of other guys do, like Quinn Matthews last year. So hopefully he gets through that quicker than a Quinn Matthews. But fastball, I give him a 55, 60 grade. Slider, 60, 65. The splitter, 55, 60. He's got a death ball curve, which is a 45, 50. And command, I throw 45, 50. So I like him a lot. Generates a ton of ground balls because of the arm action and the release point on where he's throwing it from up top. Just makes guys not get good bat to ball. But I am concerned about durability somewhat, just like I am with Tong. And I just think that he plays up more as like a not an ace, but like your second pitcher in the rotation or a third pitcher in the rotation.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And it's funny when I was just doing a little prep for this, I was just envisioning the Blue Jays in October, and I'm like, okay, would I rather have Ryan Waldschmidt in a game 7 or Jose Barrios? I'm like, honestly, I think I'd rather have Savage. Sorry, I'm still talking about Waldschmidt here. I think I'd rather have Savage, and like that's an exaggeration, of course, but I I think we're seeing a really, really, really good Blue Jays number 3 rotational piece and a really, really solid number 2 who can flash ace pockets of season stretches. I think we can see those pockets. I don't think we'll see that overall consistency, and I think it's because of the mechanics that you mentioned. And this is just another player that brings me back to FYPD and the analysis we do. Savage coming out of East Carolina, it wasn't Skeens coming out of LSU. Great numbers, but it's East Carolina. So you have to question, like, okay, where does he exactly fall in the organizational depth and rankings, and where do we place him? Well, he dominated absolutely everywhere for the most part. Really brief stint in AA, but he dominated A and high A. It's like, okay, probably should have started at AA and really started to like work on those things because he's been rushed, at least for the most part, through AA into AAA. But I think from an overall long-term package here, like he's probably in my top 5 because I just think he's ready. And again, pitching is so volatile, right? We had big injuries this season to some of the top pitching prospects, and it's like, okay, like the Blue Jays are going to be trying to win yet again next year with Vladdy locked up. Like he's going to be in the rotation is my expectation by next June.
Yeah, I think so too. But then again, I thought the same thing for Quinn Matthews last year. So
You're an injury
hopefully,
away from being irrelevant again, right? Like
yeah,
not
yeah.
irrelevant,
I
but
just
falling.
look at that 15% walk rate in AAA, and I'm like, ooh. Yeah, maybe I just have Quinn Matthews PTSD as a Cardinals fan too, so that could be
I
also
mean,
be the case.
he's also he's just eclipsed his career high for innings. And I mean, we're talking about by an inning, but at East Carolina, his most was 93.1. He's at 94.2 now. It is September. I oftentimes forget to give these guys, especially the pitchers, grace and just think, oh man, here it is. Here's the downfall. But it's like, we just don't know, right? It's something definitely to capture. But 4 games, I'll give him a pass. I like what I saw in the overall tier of the year.
Yeah, exactly. 29, Josue Briseño. Oh, and by the way, just a note on Yasevich real quick. He has made a couple bullpen appearances of late, and they have kind of limited his innings to a point where if they wanted to bring him up a la Shane McClanahan, like Shane McClanahan came up like the last day of the season and then made the playoff bullpen, it's a possibility, just to your point. But 29, Josue Briseño with the Tigers. I love this dude. When he was coming up, I was in love with the hit tool. I was like, this guy is just such a straight up hitter. When he was an A-ball, insane contact rates. He might have had like the top contact rate or something when he was an A-ball, I want to say. But then he comes in and starts developing power out of nowhere, gets to fall league. And yeah, 84% contact rate in A-ball last year. Gets to fall league last year and then just starts mashing homers like it's nobody's business. And you say, okay, that makes some sense because he's 6'4", 200 pounds. Like, this is a frame that should have power attached to it, associated with it. And then he's relayed that straight into this season where he now has a 20 homer season. So, you know what? Like, he's just here. He's got a lot of projectability to him. I think that he's more or less moving off to first base. Let's see. At this year, he's played at Double A, 24 games at catcher, 9 at first base, and 6 at DH. So they're kind of getting him first acclimated to first base as well, which I think ultimately becomes his position as a first baseman rather than a catcher, especially at that size. It's very rare to see big catchers like that. Like Salvi's like the only guy that's like that. And Alfredo Duno also coming up. But I just love the profile here. 114.3 max EV, 107.5 90th. He is a really, really good hitting catcher. 157 WRC plus on the year as a 20-year-old who's now at Double A. So that just really projects out to closer to like a 200 WRC plus based on age to level. So I think that right here we have maybe a future superstar. Again, though, Detroit sucks for hitters. So that's the downfall here for him, is like he might struggle when he first comes up. We all thought Colt Keith was going to have power too, and now look at him. So that is the risk, is just Detroit is a power sapping ballpark.
My note is verbatim. Really the only potential true Samuel Basallo in the minor leagues currently. Problem is, it's cold as shit. Like, it's just, it sucks because it's like, well, we've seen that environment, and I think it's the weather, maybe it's the wind patterns. It just takes away a lot of the value. Torkelson's had problems. You said Keith has had problems. Riley Green had problems for a number of years and is starting to find his path, even though he's wildly inconsistent on a month-to-month basis. I think out of all the guys we talked about today, we threw around the Basallo name here and there. This could be almost an identical profile with some slight differences. Body type, pull side power, the EVs. He's going to be a really exciting player. And my hope is he's kind of like, and I say this loosely, he's kind of like Miggy, where it's just like, it doesn't matter where he plays. He hits it so darn hard, so darn far, it's not a concern. We'll just have to see. And it's great for Detroit because, again, another team that's a playoff team and projected to be good over the next couple of years, depending on how Scuball's contract goes, but they need offense. And I think Briseño is going to be a guy that absolutely delivers that.
Yeah, one of a few for them because they've got a lot of top prospects here. Number 28 is a guy who was just drafted. Starting pitcher Cade Anderson with the Mariners. I expect him to be a quick riser. I think we see him by the middle or end of next year. He has not debuted yet, like Liam and like Gage Wood, who also debuted the other day. So I guess we're not going to see him until next year. But I comped him to Max Fried. Leaner, 6'2" lefty, kind of like Max Fried. Gets really good vert on the fastball, up to 20 inches, kind of a la Liam Doyle's fastball. But he just has way better breakers than Doyle, despite him not having the same velocity, only 92 to 96 on the fastball from the left side. His breakers all rate out as potentially plus, like literally all of them. He's got a slider 84 to 88, which I love. That's my favorite of his breakers. He's got a curve that could be potentially plus that I rate 55, 60. And then the changeup I rate 50 to 60. So between all those pitches, and I give him a 45 out of 55 on the command. So potential plus command too on the command side. So just like a really, really good pitcher. I don't think he's going to be an ace, but I think he's going to be like a stud number 2.
Yeah. And right now I have him FYPD 3, and that's going to possibly change just with what Willits has done. I had Anderson 2, Willits 3, but I love the environment. Love everything you said with the pitch mix and the pitch ability. Seattle is talk about an organization. We were speaking on Milwaukee earlier with developing pitchers. Seattle crushes it. They do such a great job. Look what they've turned Brian Wu into. It's going to have been a better landing spot. And the fact that he fell was just perfect. So I think there's a lot to like here. I agree. Fast riser. I think even in redraft next year, he might be a guy that I'm looking at like last bench spot if I have a deeper league where I'm anticipating good returns in the second half. And I love the Max Fried comp. Think about Max Fried pitching in Seattle. He may not have such a bad second half in comparison to his first half. So yeah, Anderson, definitely a lot to like here.
Yeah, for sure. 27 is Andrew Painter. So Andrew Painter has had a rough time of late. I almost he's been so bad. I almost picked Anderson ahead of him. I just couldn't though, because the potential is just still there. When I saw Painter, I was like, man, this fastball is like way more hittable than I remember because I saw him live in Aceball, and Aceball hitters were getting on it and fouling it off every single time he threw it. But the breakers that he threw all look normal. They all even metrically, when you look at his pitch data, pitch level data, all the breakers still read as good pitches. His problem right now is the fastball. He either has figured out or lost spin on it, which is the big thing. Cause I don't think he has IVB. I think he has just loss of spin issues in the fastball. And I want to say, and maybe this is just me being hopeful, that with the whole offseason now, he had a whole offseason last year, but it was his first time pitching, in fall league. It was his first time pitching in a year or whatever, coming off TJ. So my whole thought process is, okay, maybe one more offseason, he gets it back. I'm not ready to drop out on Andrew Painter yet, despite the fact that his statistics are not good in the minors this year. But, I still like the breaking stuff. And I think that hopefully he can get the fastball at least close to back to what it was before the injury. And the command still all seems pretty good too. If you just look at the pitch metrics, it's all just not good fastball. 358 Sierra on the season.
It used to be, we give the TJ guys a year because it used to be just really command, right? Command was spotty. And because the command was spotty, you're just right off the season. Sometimes we didn't even go deeper than just, hey, command's crap. Give him a full year before we really start to judge them. And now we've just seen so many successful cases of guys that can come back and pitch well, or at least above the expectations we used to have. That I don't want to say that we've forgotten it, but it's still an added, it's still something in my mind that I kick around in regards to I have higher expectations, and I'm going back to the first year back means nothing. Spencer Strider, if we take his data this year, talk about falling off a mountain, right? But I think the same thing could be said for Painter as Strider, which is, hey, let's give him an off season. If the fastballs can return, we might just have it one of the best pitchers in baseball again on both accounts, Strider and Painter. So I think it's really hard gauge where Painter's value is in your leagues, but I'm still a full believer. And if I get Forrest Whitley'd, so be it.
Yeah, he's still only 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something people forget. It's not like he's 24 or 25 now. He's still only 22 years old. 26, this is the last guy we're going to talk about in this podcast. It is starting pitcher Robbie Snelling. So, yes, I am Snelling over Painter. I even made a post about it. I freaking love Robbie Snelling. He is just so in this year. His fastball is ridiculous. I love watching him pitch. I've watched a lot of his minor league starts this year, and his stuff is so good. He added 2 to 3 ticks to every single pitch this offseason. I'm not really quite sure how he's done it. I haven't seen any articles on did he go to a lab or what he did this offseason, but literally every single pitch is up 2 to 3 miles an hour, and all the spin on all his stuff is much better. So part of me, I'm okay, is this just the Marlins? Because when he was with the Padres last year, he was terrible. And then basically as soon as the Marlins traded for him, we started seeing a turnaround from him. He just got significantly better with the Marlins at the end of last year. And then all of a sudden he adds velocity and is just amazing. Here's what I throw on his pitches. I give him a 60 to potential 70 on his fastball because he's throwing 94 to 97. And it's a high vert fastball from the left side with a ton of zip because he throws 3/4. It just reminds me of Jesus Luzardo, mechanics watching him, except he has a lot better command than Jesus Luzardo. So if you can imagine, this is like a Jesus Luzardo with way better command. It's kind of like how I see Snelling. He's got a sweeper that he throws 81 to 84. They call it a curve, but it's a sweeper. He's got a gyro slider, 82 to 84. He's got a changeup that's it's like a sinker almost. It's got a lot of movement to it. His changeup, I throw a 50 out of 60 on that. He throws 88 to 90. And the command has just been on point, 55 out of 60 on command from the left side. And the thing to remember is Snelling is still only 21 years old. I know he's been around for a long time because in 2023, he was amazing and had a big season, but he was really young when he had that season. He's still only 21. And we just talked about how good the Mariners are at developing pitchers. The Marlins are maybe equivalent or maybe just a tick down from the Mariners, like really, really good at developing pitchers. So Snelling, because the Marlins are not in this year, he's not getting, he in most orgs, he probably would have been a September call-up, but because there's no point for them to start the clock now, we're probably seeing Robbie Snelling after like April 10th or whatever that Super 2 date is, because the Marlins, they want the extra year. So they're going to wait until after that Super 2 date, but then he's probably in the rotation the whole rest of the year next year. So I'm in on him in every league that I can get him in.
Yeah, the list just continues to grow of what could the Padres have been had they just not gone all in over and over and over again. And I thought Snelling, when they made that trade, was a great sell. Because at the time, the fastball was the real question mark was, is it going to be fast enough to really hold his own at the major league level? And you nailed it. The velo's up. And it's up on a guy that was control and crafty and had to learn how to really throw his secondary pitches. Well, now he's just incredibly dangerous. And I'm excited. Again, like what could have been Gore, Snelling, the Abrams, Wood, like a lot of names that were coming from the San Diego organization, but fell in the right organization, whether it was Driveline or Tread, or if it was just the pitching lab in Miami that they've invested their own money into. Like we're seeing a great pop from Snelling, and I don't know to put him honestly. Like I think you have a great conversation piece with Painter and Snelling, right? One's healthy, one has question marks coming back from a surgery. Like it's a really good grouping of starting pitchers right now, and I think there's a lot to be excited for. But hell of an environment for Snelling to pitch in Miami.
Yeah, 18% swing strike rate on that fastball at AAA this year. That's
The hard
insane.
hit's great too. What is it, 29% hard hit? I mean, talk about just limiting damage.
Yes. I'm big on him. 256 Sierra / JAERA on the season for Robbie Snelling. So that's it. That's the podcast. Those are your 25 guys in this ranking. Thanks for coming on, Matt. What do you got going on besides this?
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me, man. Had a blast. I enjoy not hosting sometimes. It's a little different hat to wear. But Doc and I are still doing the Dynasty Dingers. I think we're going to take this week off. We'll dive back into scout the stat line, top 10s this offseason as we did last year, and really just get back to the minor league ball. Doc and I did a really good job of like diving into the pro ball this season. We enjoyed it. But, you're going to have us all offseason really going through some of the names that we talked about today and engaging from our own like scouting perspective and prospect analysis. Like how does that fit into, our philosophy? So yeah, dude, always love joining you. So I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, awesome time. Follow Matt_E_Morris on X. Follow me at Fantasy Aceball on X. Watch on YouTube the Tim Kanak, and follow Dynasty and subscribe to Dynasty Dingers podcast, of course. Thank you for watching or listening or whatever you do to consume this content. We'll see you next time. Peace out.